Okay, welcome everyone to the January 2021 Board of Directors meeting for Chandler's Landing. Hope you're all having a good start to the year and appreciate you joining us on Zoom. Trying to keep people safe, and this is the way to do it. So let's go ahead and going to call the meeting to order. Mr. Vice President, do we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, very good. Got a couple other people wanting to join. Give me 1 second. All right. Okay, move on to ratifying the minutes from the December meeting on a vote that was done on January 14th. I make a motion that we ratify that vote for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, Chip seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Aye.
Very good. Oh, and I see that, yep, Karen's with us now. Good job.
Good morning, Karen.
Morning. She's connecting right now. Okay. Lee, can you go ahead and give your cell phone number for any questions that need to be asked, since we're moving into the owner visitor forum next?
469-767-4080.
Okay, and we'll do it one more time.
469-767-4080.
And remember, it's state your name, address in your text, and then what your question is, and we'll read that. We can also try the raising of hands. We've had mild success with that from time to time. So we're going to move into the owner visitor forum, section 1. Does anybody have questions? And we'll give it a little bit of time for text to come into Lee. I feel like there might be a little bit of a lag time because it seems like it's not showing on my side as the host when people are still in the waiting room. So I'm going to be monitoring that through the meeting. Make sure we get everybody in, because it seemed like Karen was waiting there for a while before it showed up on my side to be able to admit her.
Evan, do you want to give any instructions on how they can raise their hand if they're on Zoom?
Yeah,
or...
so it's, no, just kidding.
No.
It is down, well, depending on what interface you're using, whether you're on a tablet or a phone, it might be a little bit different, but down at the bottom,
If you click on participants,
yes.
you can raise your hand.
Yes, you can raise your hand there. But like I said, we have the text message as our default fallback.
Actually, if you can click on more, and it's at the very top. So
see, that's weird. On my screen, when I click on more, it only says like publish it live on Facebook or YouTube.
Yeah.
So I think the interfaces are different depending on. Okay. I don't see anybody else in the waiting room currently. Any questions come in?
None at all.
None at all. Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. Give it just a couple more minutes, and I appreciate everyone's patience. We just want to make sure that we're not moving too quickly here if there's a lag or something going on. Okay, I'm ready to call it. Okay, no text message or anything?
No.
And I don't see any hands raised. Okay. We will move on into the reports. I will start with mine. Mine is a little bit of a overall why since it's January of 2021, why we are where we are, what we're doing, what the focus is. Remind everybody that the why behind the push for improvements in Chandler's, it started with this board, and as we came on and started being able to see behind the scenes, where most residents don't get that perspective, it really pushed us to say, we love this community, but there is such a need for better planning so that we make sure that we have a good future. I brought, as many of you have heard me say, I'll say it one more time, the Greek proverb of a successful society is one in which old men and women plant trees in whose shade they may never sit. And as I thought about that, I thought about our neighborhood, and it's a great neighborhood, but it's got probably 20, 25 years of deferred maintenance, and we need to do better for the future. We don't need to just pass our problems along. We can also do some provisions so that we have a better future. I'm in real estate, as many of you know. I don't talk about it a lot, but the fact is I have been in hundreds and hundreds of neighborhoods, and I grew up here, and out of all the neighborhoods decided to come back here because it is so unique, not just in Rockwall, but really in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. There's a handful of neighborhoods that have similar amenities to us, and none of them are blessed to be this proximity onto the lake. So we have something really good here, and we need to take care of it. And when we uncover that that's not happening and we're not doing proper preparations, what we've done the last year and a half, also through part of that being COVID, is we have doubled down on, hey, what's our baseline? Where are we at? Where are we at on retaining walls? Where are we at on green belts? Where are we at? We're going to hear from Ponds Committee today. We got some really important stuff that we need to hear from them on our natural resources that we have in the neighborhood. The club was a big thing too. The perspective there that so many people are moving into the neighborhood because they want this lifestyle. It necessitated not demolishing and building condos, but giving us a place in our neighborhood to all go. And it had been plagued for 30, 35 years by very little maintenance. Duct tape was kind of the tool of choice. And after time, that took a toll. And so we needed to invest there. I've called that the tip of the spear because it's so visible. And it's such a gathering point for all of us. And so we're nearly finished with that. And now we will be moving out of that phase and refocusing back on the neighborhood on all these other areas that we've identified. Also with that, this last summer, we had our first reserve study in 10 years. And that reserve study showed a lot of need coming up. And we did actually a 30-year perspective on that reserve study. And so we are now set up that we can properly forecast for what our needs will be. And then we just need to make sure that we have the financial wherewithal to do that. So we have something really good, and therefore we have a responsibility, I believe, to take care of it. To whom much is given, much is required. And time tells the truth. Out of all the deferred maintenance in the neighborhood and at the Yacht Club, it's if we didn't do something now, I know that there's some people in the neighborhood that are maybe not pleased with some of the angles that have been taken, but you can be mad now or upset or frustrated by it, or you can be really upset in 10 years. So we decided to make the uncool move of attacking the problems so that we can have a better future for all of us and future generations that will live in this neighborhood. So that's our course, that's our perspective, that's the why. that we have so much of this going on, and some of it's not as fun, but then some of it's really fun. I think some of you have already started seeing the new street signs that are going up. How cool. What a breath of fresh air. What a great look, you know? So there's really good things ahead, but I would say that we're in this spot just before dawn, and it's dark and the sunrise is on the horizon, and we need to keep walking towards it and not backtrack or accidentally head off to the left or right. So we need to keep pushing forward for good things, and there's challenges ahead, but we're going to get through that, and it's going to be a better scenario for all of us in the future. So that will I'll step down on that, and then we'll move into the treasurer's report from Bruce.
Okay, thank you, Evan. Good morning, everybody. I will throw a lot of numbers at y'all, and these numbers will all be posted on Monday after the financial report, the treasurer's report is approved. So anything you don't get, or if you get overwhelmed with the details, it'll be available on Town Square on Monday. So looking at December, Chandler's had revenue for the month of $145,000. Expenses totaled 173. And if you're quick with numbers, that's a loss of $28,000 for December. The loss was driven by $50,000 in TYC property expenses. Of the $50,000, nearly half was comprised of Kemper's management fee and interest on the B1 bank loan. Most of the rest was subsidizing the Yacht Club's $32,000 loss for December. So turning to the full year, Chandler's had revenue of $1,753,000 to be precise, but expenses were $2,040,000. So revenue of $1,753,000, expenses of $2,040,000, and this produced a loss for 2020 of $287,000. The Yacht Club property expenses for the year were $486,000, again driven by Kemper's management fee, interest on the B1 bank loan, taxes, landscaping costs, and subsidies for TYC losses. TYC operated for the last 12 weeks of the year, producing sales revenue of $147,000. Losing $186,000 for the year. So clearly 2020 was a very tough year with several one-off costs. No revenue for over 9 months at the club, management fees all year, food and beverage inventories restocked, staff training, COVID restrictions on capacity, limited events due to COVID, and a brief COVID shutdown due to illness. Don't think this is on Kemper. It's not on Ryan. It's not on Val. This is on the circumstances that we faced. And I think a good job has been done at running the club with these limitations. But having said that, we're draining liquidity and reducing rather than increasing cash reserves. And we just simply cannot continue to operate in 2021 at this level of loss. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. All right, T, management report.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First, good morning. First, I would welcome all to year 2021. I know that, as we all know, 2020 was tough, but definitely had its rewards. Right now, I am pleased to announce that CLCA HOA office will be fully staffed as of Monday, the 18th. We want to welcome Kristen Hartani as compliance manager. She will also handle CLCA service desk. She'll be in charge of marketing and communications. And just briefly, going over Kristen's tenure at Chandler's Landing as far as the community, she began employment in May of 2016. with Allied or with the contract security company. She became the security assistant supervisor in June of 2016 and security supervisor June of 2020. So Kristen is familiar with CLCA C3 software, our residents in our community, and I feel along with the board and HOA staff that she will truly be an asset to the HOA office staff and community. We are pleased that she chose to apply, and the HOA staff has worked shorthanded for several months. So I want to personally thank Carrie Cunningham for her hard work and dependability during 2020 COVID-19 challenges and these past few months. Carrie will take the position of EC Staff Liaison. She will work with John Lewis and CLCA Environmental Committee. So I want to welcome both Kristen and Carrie to their new positions. I'm having a little bit of trouble today with my asthma, so if I seem short of breath, that's why. So CLCA welcomed 7 new homeowners to our community in December, a total of 82 new property owners in 2020. I want to encourage everyone to watch Town Square 2021 events, updates to community info, and if you haven't already registered, to please register. Within the first quarter of 2021, our audit for CLCA and TYC will begin in February, and as Evan stated, the reserve study will be updated now that the Yacht Club and we're getting a handle on what we're going to tackle this year as far as reserve expenses. As Bruce stated, CLCA financial summary will be posted on Monday, along with TYC financials. And looking forward to 2021 events, the community being together, and with the hopes that COVID slows its course. The second quarter will have a better idea as far as spring and summer events, the pools, and I have put a request out to the committees to prepare a 2021 calendar of events for the HOA office so that we can be all abreast of what is planned, even if it's temporarily placed on the calendar, to have a better idea as we move into 2021 of community events. Basically, that's all I have to announce, and so we're just really looking forward to being fully staffed beginning Monday.
Awesome. Thank you very much, T.
You're
All
welcome.
right.
Thank you.
Chip, on to you.
Good morning. I've got 2 updates here, one for security and then the other on Yacht Club construction updates. I'll just, if you're okay, Evan, I'll just roll from one to the next.
That'd be great.
With regard to security, a couple of, these are fun facts, as I call them, but they're also significant. So for the entire year of 2020, at the visitors gate at 1 Commodore Plaza, so the left-hand lane where the visitors come through, we logged 150,000 vehicles that came through the visitor gate there. That is a significant increase over 2019. One of the things that I know there's some frustrations with the line going out to Henry M. Chandler, but in reality, one of the issues here is we have a large number of residents that, 1, do not have resident stickers on their vehicle, and 2, have not invested in a toll tag so that they can use the resident lane. I've asked Kristen, actually, we've asked Allied Universal to do some counts for us on over a period of a week, so we can get some kind of extrapolation of a number of approximately how many residents are coming through through the visitor lane, so that we can reach out and put some type of program together to get folks to, 1, put a sticker on their vehicle, a resident sticker, and 2, get some type of toll tag. So our bylaws require both. It's a little bit of a crapshoot to enforce it, but it does take time away from other activities that we should be working on. As T mentioned, Kristen is resigned from Allied Universal, just moving across the parking lot. Allied is in the process of recruiting and interviewing and hiring a new site supervisor for us. As soon as we have that, they have that person identified, we'll announce it to the community. Right now, I know Kristen will still be helping out here a little bit, just in terms of training and things like that. The day shift folks, Monday through Friday, have been here quite a while. They're very knowledgeable of the community, so I don't anticipate any issues there. Speeding continues to be an issue in the neighborhood. We had a pretty violent accident last Sunday morning at the corner of Ranger and Intrepid with injuries because of somebody exceeding the speed limit. This was at 2:45 in the morning, so 3 people got hauled off in ambulances. I don't think any of those folks are on the call here, but again, we need to slow down, and speed limit's 25. Moving on to club construction update. The elevator is installed. This is a multi-part process that moves rather slow, as I've found out. The Schindler Elevator Company has a crew that came out and installed the elevator, which took about a week. There are a number of punch list items. Those actually have been kind of behind the scenes. Some of those have started today. One of the reasons we're actually on Zoom, in addition, just because of COVID, is they'll be down. Mershon's drywall contractors will be down, starting to finish out and frame in the openings around the elevator doors, and that's going to be a little bit loud and materials in the way, so they'll start that today. Once that's complete, the elevator has to be inspected. Once all the punch list items are taken care of, then Schindler will send a crew back out to adjust it. So that will be the fine tuning, so it knows to stop at the right place, and also program the requirements for the City of Rockwell Fire Department when the fire alarm trips. And then at that point, we'll be able to schedule the state inspector to come in and do the final inspection on it. Hopefully we don't have any issues, and that will, it'll be able to go operational at that point. So I don't have a specific date. I'm optimistic we can get this done in the next 30 days. It's some of this slowdown is COVID related with all the contractors. So hopefully we can get this finished up here shortly. We have finished up all the design and repricing for the ADA parking. Randy and I have reviewed the pricing on that, the updated pricing on that. We'll be releasing that so that we can get that scheduled, hopefully, and start, weather permitting, here in the next 7 to 10 days. There are a number of punch list items that we're working through within the club. Those have been ongoing as they're just items that pop up. It's a 45-year-old building. There's parts of the building, not much, but there's a few places we didn't touch. So we've had some surprises come up. We're working through those. The outside, I know a lot of you have seen the retaining wall out on the back, on the north side of the building. The wall itself is completed. The railing and cabling is going in, and then we're working to finalize the irrigation piece, which requires some electrical connections out at the lake for the pump. We have a permit to pump out of the lake, and a couple other items. So hopefully we'll have that finished up here in the next week or 10 days as weather permits for the sod and that. And I think that that concludes my report on construction update, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you
If
very
I
much.
may,
Do what?
Yes.
a little bit, pertaining to the cost and the project at the Yacht Club. being in my business, had we started that project, a recent start, the cost could have easily been 30 to 40% more than what we spent on the construction of that club. I don't know, people that aren't in the industry may not know what's going on right now with just materials involved in a construction project of that size and scope, with a shortage of labor. I mean, it may not seem like it, but we really, the timing of that was pretty phenomenal.
Yes.
For a lot of reasons. Not being in the industry, I can't stress that enough. And I would like people to understand that we're very fortunate that we got that project done in a timely fashion. I mean, very quickly, before these material costs hit also. So.
Right. And Randy, that's a good point. I mean, I'll be a little more direct about it. We dodged a big bullet on,
Yes.
On material cost and labor cost. And that's actually one of the challenges right now, for example, with Schindler Elevator Company, is they have had half of their, off and on, half of their installation crews out with COVID. We were, I think they're 3 months behind on elevator installs. And so I know it's been very frustrating for all of us to walk in the door and see that orange netting there. So hopefully here in the next week or so, we can make that go away. But that's a great point. We're seeing a little bit of that right now, getting some of the trades back for punch list items because they've just got so much work. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Randy. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
thank you, Randy, for that perspective. Very important. Okay, gonna move on to the TYC update by Ryan. I'm gonna share my screen with the document that they sent over. And Ryan, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yep, I'm good, sir. Sorry, my camera is not functioning, so you get to look
That's
at a
all right.
black screen with my name, unfortunately.
Okay, I'm gonna share the screen right now here. Let's see here. Okay.
Does everybody see that? It looks like it's up on the screen now. It just loaded on mine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. I'll go really high level here. I know Bruce talked a little bit about the financials for TYC. I'll hit on a few of the categories and then kind of give you a perspective of where we're heading in the early parts of 2021 with some what we feel is really positive momentum. Total revenue for the club in December was 51,715 on a plan of 90K. The majority of this shortfall was purely events. You know, we lost just under 28K due to COVID concerns, between a little bit of corporate and the majority of social business for holidays. You know, unfortunately, we expected it and we pivoted the best we could from a control standpoint, but it's just another challenge that we're up against from an event standpoint that we feel like we're going to be in a better direction going forward. But it was a tough month from an event standpoint. So if we were able to capture that revenue, obviously that loss becomes much, much less. Food and non-alcoholic beverage sales still over 60%, which is good. So we're controlling the 51-49 between food and alcohol responsibly, but also the staff is becoming more well-versed and trained to work on upselling, alcohol knowledge. So those are all good things. Food and beverage COGS, 36.7% on the food. Beverage was just under 29%. A little bit this was from waste. So we're working on waste mitigation through training, food audits, beverage audits, and then just overall controls in the kitchen through shelf to sheet inventories. You know, through the first 90 days, these systems do take time to get in place, but we're in a much better spot now heading forward than we were before. So team's doing great there. Obviously with the shortfall, labor's in a much better spot. So we're controlling that the best we can. You know, we were under in labor, just under $8,000. you know, we've really learned where the volume is coming from during the week, and then being able to stockpile some of that labor for later on the weekend when the volume dictates, we can provide a better level of service. So we'll continue to do that through the first part of 2021 as we work on staffing levels and again, enhance our training. Expenses were under plan by just under 7K. Again, when revenues aren't coming in, we try to save as best we can. There are still some 911 needs that we're purchasing just to get through day-to-day business on small wares, glassware, flatware, stemware, just basic fundamental needs to execute the business. But we're in the mode now that as revenue builds, that's when we make those purchases. And as the event business does start to uptick, which I'll talk about here in a few minutes, we'll also make orders based on when we book business, so it makes sense. Linen expense was a little higher. That was one line item that did stick out. Big part of this is using other parts of the building with banquet tables and the necessity for linens. So we're over, you know, roughly about $100 to $150 a week through December, and we'll work on that in January. We padded a little bit in there for events going forward, so that won't be as much of a inflated line item. And then again, just managing small wares and restaurant expenses through the first quarter of 2021. Ebitda, we came in at a $31,000 loss on a plan of 15,000. While it doesn't look good, you know, we did recover a lot of that loss. You know, I think this is a testament to just us focusing on the day-to-day business. You know, 38% of the lost revenue is recovered through payroll and operating expenses, and then 57% of the lost revenues were recovered through other cost savings, you know, in the COGS, and then payroll and again, operating expenses. So as revenues are down, we're also flexing the expenses and the labor down the best we can without, you know, peeling the paint off the walls and digging into any service issues. While Q4 was tough, it was a difficult opening for us from a staffing and a training and just obviously the obvious COVID. We do feel like we've really turned a corner, and we have a lot of great momentum going into 2021. Programming has really kicked into high gear just in the first couple weeks. Couple different live music activations, improving Wine Down Wednesday. We've had 2 very successful steak nights, which have been our highest grossing Fridays on record for the first 90 days. We have fitness classes that are coming starting next weekend. We're doing everything in a safe, socially distanced capacity, but still providing a good experience and a sense of community within the gates, which is ultimately what one of our goals is in our mission. We know COVID is tough and it's going to take a while to go away. So we have to find creative ways to use the space we have in a dynamic way, because we do have the ability to do some really creative things and still be safe and responsible as operators to the community. And we'll continue to do that. Event leads are coming in really strong. You know, we did hire a new sales manager that starts next week, but just in the last 2.5 weeks alone, we're averaging just over 2.5 leads a day on a social and wedding standpoint, because we're in the height of engagement season. I am happy to announce that we've put nearly $100,000 in the event pipeline for all of 2021 and early 2022, just in weddings and receptions. So the demand's there for events. People are wanting to spend the money. They can't push their events back much further. And we have the space to do it. You know, once the outdoor venue's done, then we really have the space to do it. So I am very optimistic, but also realistic about what we can do in the early part of 2021 as we work through this. And then lastly, what I want to touch on is our true review and our survey scores. You know, I think most people saw that are on this call what the net promoter score was when Kemper came in on a consulting basis. The survey counts are a little low, but still the NPS is at 85.9. If we're getting more surveys, which we're working on, that would still normalize in the 70s, which is significantly higher than what it was. I believe it was minus 26. I can't remember the exact number.
Negative 28.
Thank you.
Give or take.
But we're heading in the right direction. We fully understand that where our shortfalls are and where we're making mistakes. but we are getting better every day. Our team is getting more comfortable every day. We've taken a lot of really good feedback from a lot of residents and even members of the board that we are working towards making improvements. And most people have been patient, not everybody. So I do appreciate the patience, because it does take time. You know, in a non-COVID world, an opening is difficult and it does take time. So the COVID challenges have forced us to, really dig deep and be creative and patience and find unique ways to provide good service and drive revenue, because ultimately those are the top two. Revenue will cure all. So we are working through it. It is getting better. The staff is getting more comfortable. We are going to continue to top grade the staff as we work through. We are getting more visits. You know, it's nice to see a nice full restaurant on a Friday night 2 weeks in a row, and people having a great time, and we're driving a really nice margin and nice revenue, and the energy is there. And, you know, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the support of the residents and them really starting to not only get on our side, but just give us great feedback to get better, because ultimately they want this thing to succeed as much as we do. So I do want to end just with a thank you to everyone on the call from a resident standpoint that has given me that feedback. I know there are a few that I've talked to. We couldn't be where we are today without you. And I'm confident that in another 90 days from now, we're going to be in an even better spot. So that wraps up my my high level report from the club.
Okay, very good. And I will kind of tag two things. I will tag on that true review. That's a QR code at the bottom of every receipt. So everyone that's on the call, for yourself and tell your friends that we want that feedback. And so if you'll go ahead and take the couple minute and a half to scan that QR code and fill out a quick survey, that's very, very helpful to the team at the Yacht Club. And then Val, did you want to share something?
Yes, Evan, board, thank you for a couple minutes. Just wanted to connect some dots here. One of the things that was important in surmising from this report is, if you think to the cost savings, recovering 57% of lost revenues through cost of goods, payroll, and operating expense savings, the danger in doing that is cutting into the service and experience and food quality. So we measure that by these true review scores and Resi scores. So what we're seeing here is that Ryan and his team are able to accomplish and execute these expense savings without cutting into the service and the food quality and the experience. So it's a very difficult task when we're tasked with having to recover lost banquet revenue and lost revenue and operating at 50%. So just wanted to commend Ryan and his team, but also make sure we make the connection that these cost savings are not hurting the business.
Excellent. Thank you for that. All right, I'm going to stop the screen share here. We'll go back to normal. And go. Okay, so that finishes our reports. And now we're going to move on to new business. And what we have today on new business is the Ponds Committee. They're going to be joining us. Andy, I believe, is going to be speaking and walking us through, and I'm going to do some additional screen shares as I can on that side of things. So Andy, are you able to unmute yourself there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Andy Kirk. I volunteer on the Ponds Committee. Well, we have a couple other members that are online right now. I see Mark and I see Doug. I was elected to speak. So if you guys have any questions, fire away. And I suggest we start, Evan, if you could maybe bring up the one of those files from the report. It shows the aerial view. It looks like kind of like a Google map.
Okay.
It's kind of the broadest view of Chandler's. Maybe start with that one.
It's this one right here, or
no, the one that looks more like the Google map. Yeah, right there. So let me give you guys a quick background. Myself, I grew up here in Chandler's from the early 80s and moved back here a few years ago. Really enjoy this neighborhood. I live on Sovereign Court, so these ponds are a terrific amenity. In this picture, you can see at the top right of the photo, that is Blue Heron Pond, closest to the north entrance. Then as you notice, that that pond, when it rains hard, will go over its spillway and empty into Sovereign, which is kind of down in the middle of this picture. Sovereign Pond is the larger one. Then right above Sovereign Pond on the right is Mallard. Mallard Pond empties also into Sovereign, as well as a couple other gullies, if you will, that empty rainwater into the pond. What happened, what we observed during a very heavy rain event 2 or 3 years ago was Sovereign Pond got as full as I've ever seen it. The amount of water going over the spillway, and now you could probably switch over to that file that has the colorful sections there. It's part of the report. Yeah, right there. So on the right-hand side of that image, you'll see the spillway. I don't know if you can mouse over that area on the right-hand side. So that is the spillway that will take all the water across the dam and down into the creek that runs through the park. And what we've observed during heavy rain events is that the water going over that spillway, the report breaks it down into the spillway and what they call the pilot channel. And the pilot channel is the section on the end of the spillway that turns to the left, or the kind of a south direction. And it terminates abruptly, and the water just dumps right into the creek, into that section that's in the orange colored with the patch. So that's what they call a plunge pool. So backing up a little bit, the ponds committee decided, we contacted the company that maintains our ponds and helps us out with the fish, with kidfish and stuff. And they recommended this company called Cardinal Strategies in Wiley, Texas. It's a civil engineering firm. They do a lot of projects involving waterway improvements through neighborhoods in this North Texas and Oklahoma area. And so they provided this report. They did a site investigation, and they also provided a recommendation as kind of step one on how to mitigate some of the issues that they had found. So the report itself is quite detailed. It goes into the type of soil that we have in this area. It goes, first of all, it mentions that when on the north side of Sovereign, when that slope was developed, he felt like the developer, or he observed the developer must have brought in some fill material. So just to the north of the dam, which is on the right side of this image, you've got kind of a situation during a rain event where you'll get a little bit of water infiltration between the fill layer and the native clay soil. He saw evidence of this, and there's some photos of what they call some seepage. Seepage occurs, I guess, when the water infiltrates down through more porous soil onto a clay layer, and then it'll infiltrate out to the side. And he saw some evidence of this. Why that's important is it ends up loosening the soil a bit at the front of the channel. During a heavy rain event, you have some undercut that occurs when the water is tumbling off the pilot channel into the plunge pool. It's kind of doing a back cut, so it's undercutting the concrete structure. And that was our primary concern. We didn't know if this presents a risk, to the integrity of the dam itself. And so we decided to hire this company to come in and do the evaluation. So they did identify that there's a significant amount of undercutting occurring due to erosion at the end of the pilot channel. They also identified an area downstream that's in the red color, another large, what they call a head cut. This is an area where the water just drops off of a kick point, and quite a bit of erosion they noted there. That's followed by the blue section, which they concluded was fairly stable and nothing needed. And then at the downstream from there, just above the first bridge in the park, by first bridge, I mean the closest bridge to the dam, they noted, and there's photos of this as well, that there's a large drop at this point as well, where the water has undercut underneath the actual structure of the bridge, and the culverts that are under there as well. So that'll eventually need to be addressed, but I want to focus our attention back on the most critical area, which is in the orange. So what they are proposing is that we construct what they call a modular block plunge pool, along with a concrete floor. And all of this is described in the scope of work document, along with the quote. Briefly, what it would look like is modular blocks, a block wall that's anchored to a concrete foundation that's in turn anchored into the soil. I believe it's 10 foot down, using some type of, it refers to a type of soil anchor that they use in their projects. Anyway, it's all quite technical, but essentially this is a block wall that's going to be underneath the end of the pilot channel, where you have the current erosion that's being undercut, and then the wall to the modular walls on each side of that, and also a concrete floor, and everything's anchored to the soil. The overall length is 21 feet, I believe. And the height would be matching the existing channel depth. I spoke with the gentleman that did this report, Calvin Bogart, who's with Cardinal Strategies. Tried to ask some questions that I anticipated might come up from the board and the community. One of the first questions on our minds was, what is the risk to Sovereign Dam if we do nothing? And what is the timeline that we have to do the repairs without risking damage to the dam? And the answer, this is in my own words after speaking with this gentleman, and I tried to be as accurate as I could. And really the answer is, it's not possible to answer the questions with any kind of certainty or specificity or specificity. Typically, once the erosion conditions start to occur, which were identified in the report, once they take a foothold, you have a scour, a head cut, an undercutting of the pilot channel, along with the seepage coming in from the side. Erosion will typically accelerate. That's typically what they see, especially during a heavy rain event. It's possible then, as the undercut gets worse, the pilot channel itself, which is made of concrete, sections might break off and then tumble down the creek, and that would create further erosion to the side of the creek. That's kind of unpredictable. So that the timeline, right? Like, how long do we have to make these repairs? When should we when should we plan to make the repairs by? That's difficult to determine, because we really don't know the original condition, things like how long it took to erode to a certain number of feet, et cetera. So the timeline is difficult. And then the other big event, obviously, is it's impossible to predict the weather. Severe heavy rain events will accelerate this erosion. The second big question I asked him is what level of, kind of already answered that, what level of, like, if we broke this project into sections, what would they recommend we tackle first? And that's obviously answered by the report. It's this, the modular block plunge pool at the end of the pilot channel is absolutely priority number one of what they've observed in the investigation. So overall, we've got a quote from this company and the construction procedures are all specified quite clearly, I think, in the document that they provided. And so we just, as a committee, we met on Tuesday of this past week. We all received a copy of this report, and we decided it would be prudent to put this in front of the board as quickly as possible, share the information, it just, we don't want something like this to lay there for too long without being addressed. And so that's it. That's the report. I've kind of given some background of why we asked for the report and a pretty high level summary of what's in the report. With that, are there any questions that I could try to answer?
Yeah, so actually, before we get to that for the board to ask any questions, I'm thinking that it's probably a good idea to take, unless there's an issue with this, and so to let me know, take a lot of these documents and put them in one post on Town Square, and do some explanations there, so that members of the community can be, this is what this is about, the board, but also our residents understanding some of the things that can really be hidden from most of us. Wouldn't even see it, wouldn't know about it. So I so greatly appreciate you bringing this to our attention, because it seems very, very important. And with any sort of work like this, we're going to get multiple quotes and whatnot, but it sounds to me like Cardinal Strategies has a really good handle on this type of work. So it's good. It's a good start. Anyone from the board have a question?
I do, Evan. Andy, is there any entrance on our neighbors' lawns with equipment that would take place that they should be aware about? If we do the
no, I believe that
or
I believe that their plan is to access the site across the dam. There's an entry point off of Ranger that has a chain across it. It's where the pathway goes up and meets Ranger Drive.
right.
That's typically where any kind of heavy equipment that needs to access any of the greenbelt areas around Sovereign Pond is typically where the city, for example, will bring their trucks in if they need to do utility repairs, et cetera. So I believe this company is planning to go across the pond. Part of their quote actually includes when they're all done with their work, they will actually seed, they will put a native grass seed in the shady areas. And part of the quote is also to put some type of, I don't know exactly what it's called. It's a type of landscape cloth that is there to prevent further erosion, because there will be obviously some disturbing of the soil as they get their bobcats or whatever they need to down into that area. And then when they're done, they're actually going to provide some sod across the dam to repair that grass area.
Andy, I believe that product is Curlex.
Yeah.
That they lay out
I
to
believe
prevent
that's
erosion and.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's right. I'm just trying to see in the report. It's they call it a non-woven filter fabric. I don't know I don't think they use a brand name there.
Yeah, I mean we call it Curlex, but it's a product we lay out, kind of a fabric, a synthetic fabric, just to prevent erosion. Stays down a long time. It's not that expensive to do, but it's very effective.
Right, right. I believe that's correct. Yeah, I was going to mention to anyone that's interested in seeing what some of this like I was curious, so I went to their website. It's fairly easy to find. Cardinal Strategies. They're located in Wiley, Texas. Is where their office is. And you can go to their website, and they have some previous projects, photos, before and after, in various neighborhoods around. I believe there's one in McKinney. There's some in Oklahoma. There's some others in North Texas, and it's interesting to see some of the before and after pictures of what they have, what they've tackled. It gives you it's nice to see those photos because it gives you a better idea of what our project might look like.
Awesome.
I've got a couple of questions and comments. So if I might. So Andy, has the Ponds Committee looked at any grant money? I think we all know the ponds are there for rain runoff. I mean, it's a flood control process. And while Chandler's was assured by TxDOT through when 740 was widened that we wouldn't take any water off the roadway, despite the fact that they put a 48-inch drain pipe underneath the road and all the way down to the lake. We all know that's not true. And so because most of the flood control ponds in Rockwall County, well, all of them in Rockwall County, all in Kaufman County are, they're all government mandated and put in during, times in the 30s and 40s and 50s. There has been in the past grant money available for rehabilitation of these ponds. And I'm just wondering, have you all investigated that, or as Cardinal Strategies, have you talked to them about what the availability would be in that? I know it needs to be done. I understand that what the plunge pool does, it's something we need to do. But that being said, there may be opportunities for us to get some financial assistance from the city. Whispering Springs across the street, we're taking water from there. We shouldn't be, and the list goes on here. So just something, I don't know, you may not have an answer, but something we need to take a look at.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. And, we could certainly ask those questions. I have no idea if Cardinal Strategies might have information, but I can certainly ask that question.
Great.
If we need to set up any meetings with the city, city engineer or the city management staff, I'm fairly certain I can facilitate that pretty quickly if that's something we have an interest in. But I think we need to kind of get our ducks lined up in a row here. We had a 4-inch rain here a week and a half ago. That's a lot of water that's coming through there, and the plunge pool purpose is to slow it down and cut down on the erosion. So get it, and but I think we need to be able to tell a story to the city that we're whether we like it or not, we're taking water that really is not supposed to come to us, but we're downhill and the lake's downhill from us. Thanks.
Yep.
Right. Good point.
Cool. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions of the Ponds Committee? Okay. All right. Thank you, Andy, and the rest of the Ponds Committee for not only being here, but for doing this investigation. This is exactly the kind of things that we need to be doing.
Yeah, great job. And any professional engineer, they're no difference to lawyers. They're they're not going to say anything with any certainty on how long something's going to last before it breaks, because they don't want to be on the hook for the liability of it. So we all know that. So thanks for all the hard work that the Ponds Committee put into this. It's very, very informative. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Awesome. Okay. So we will circle back on that kind of offline, and we'll move now out of new business and into the second owner visitor forum. Lee, you want to give your number again?
Yeah, my phone number is 469-767-4080. It's 469-767-4080. Please name and address also.
And do you have any that have come in since the first?
No.
Okay.
Evan, President, Evan, if I may, is Ryan still on the call?
I believe
Hi,
so.
Ryan. Hey, the fireworks committee asked me to ask you if you would like to possibly have the fireworks that were scheduled for New Year's Eve during Valentine's weekend. And if so, what would your preferred day be? Since Valentine's falls on a Sunday, you have that whole Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Do you want to kick it off on a Friday, or would you like to see Saturday night, or what, if you even want them at all?
Yes, we want them. Tony actually came by last night and mentioned he was looking at shooting them off on the 30th of January. So
Okay.
I'm not sure, but to answer your question, yes, we would like them. He had a good idea he brought by me, but if we did them on Valentine's, it would be that Saturday, the 13th, because I think we're going to do a Saturday and a Sunday dinner offering. So I just think we need to figure out where between Tony and maybe the committee where the possible disconnect there is on the date, but yes, we would like to.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We'll
Ryan,
have them reach out to Tony and check that out.
also on the 13th, Ryan, we have that planned for the afternoon. So just an FYI, so we can make sure that we have enough turnaround time.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, Lee, back to you. Anyone? No?
Nope, no one yet.
Okay. Well, like we typically do, this is going to be a little bit of a waiting section just to make sure that everyone had the opportunity and that we didn't move too quickly. So bear with us.
I'd like to make a comment about the ponds, if I could.
Yes.
I know that, Evan, you live right near a pond, and I take those things for granted all the time. And we all realize how important that whole system is. And it's such an integral part of our community, even down not just the wildlife that live in the ponds, but the wildlife that lives around those ponds. And I know that I've always just kind of driven by them and taken them for granted, but they are a very important part of this community.
Yeah, it's a part of our ecosystem, and we're fortunate enough to have 4 ponds in our neighborhood, and they all have a different feel, and so it's a very important part of the community. And again, that's why this is so great that we're getting this information from ponds, and we need to take it and along with our other plans on retaining walls and streets and other things, this needs to be mixed into it. And that's yet another reason of why we need to be at the proper, have proper financials for the needs of a approaching 50-year-old community. And got a lot of use out of it over the past decades. We didn't plan or give much back to it. I believe Mansell Park needs a lot of work as well. It's a beautiful park, but it's been left alone. And that's been a lot of the different corners of the neighborhood. And it's such a great neighborhood, even with all the deferred maintenance. But we need to do right by the future and make sure that we are prepared for making sure that we can take care of all of those needs. So that is our task. That's our goal. And I hope that no future boards will deviate from that, because it's really a necessary part of a successful future for this community. All right, Lee.
Nobody wants to.
Nothing. Okay. We'll just give this one more minute just to make sure. I don't see any hands raised and nothing on Lee's phone.
Nope.
Evan, let me ask a question of Andy. Andy, did Cardinal mention like a preliminary or a cost that I missed in your presentation? Is there any dollar figure attached to their work?
Yes, they, the quotation for the, once the documents get posted, look for something called the scope of work, and it includes a quotation of approximately just over $65,000. And again, this is for the modular block plunge pool construction.
So just the first most critical part.
Right. This is just the most critical part that needs to be addressed first. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Nothing, Lee?
Nope.
Okay. I'm going to call it. Feel like we've given plenty of time. So appreciate you all being here today for the January version. Happy New Year, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month. And we'll be working in between now and then to make sure that we keep moving forward on improvements. And thanks. We'll see you around. Have a good day, everyone.